Welcome to the DevRe podcast. Joining me on today's episode of the DevRe podcast is Leanne Diaz. For those of you that are new here, I haven't really met Leanne before. We had a really quick call, so I don't know too much about her. Leanne, thanks for taking the time out of your day and joining me on the episode today.
Thanks, Anthony, and thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. What I'll do is I'll let you take away your background and who you are and what you do, because there's no way I'll ever do that justice.
I like to start my introduction with three things about who I am. So I'm curious, I'm very analytical, and I'm relentless in helping organizations achieve more, whether that's through building smarter technology or improving their processes. That is one thing I'm very, very passionate about. In terms of my experience, I've had multiple roles and worked in multiple countries as well in both business and technology consulting. So I have helped organizations redefine their processes, and I've built smarter systems for those organizations. I also had the privilege of working in sales and account management roles and then focusing on strategy and go-to-market acceleration. So that is pretty much what are you going to focus on, how are you going to go to market faster, and how you're going to go to market at scale. And today I run my own business, Sasbury Consulting. Through Sasbury, I work with Microsoft partners to help them accelerate and grow their practices. Part-time, I also do some work for a Vietnam power software studio and pretty much helping them work with their customers to build smarter technology. So in the similar space as you, Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be a lot of consulting, product design, management, and assisting really making sure the right thing is being built before jumping into the tools.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you always sort of have that passion to help and get process right before you start anything?
So I actually never intended to go down this path of IT. I did a computer science degree and wanted to become a lecturer.
Okay.
And one thing led to the other, and I was offered a role in a consulting organization. And my first role was business development, but then they started a new project and they said, Leanne, we need some help on this project. Are you happy to come and take minutes of the meeting? And that's how I actually got my entry into technology consulting. I loved those workshops so much and watching the lead consultant interact with the customer at that time and say, okay, how do you do a process today? What is it that you need to change? And I was like, I actually like this a lot. So I fell into it by accident and have enjoyed it ever since.
It's an interesting. The workshops are the exciting part because that's where the ideas get thrown around and the challenges and working through as a team, trying to understand what's possible. How do we get to a solution? So I
Absolutely.
understand that.
And as you get more experience and as you work through multiple projects as well, you learn how to ask better questions in those workshops because everyone has their wants, but other wants their actual needs. So it's about challenging the stakeholders you're engaging with and making sure that you're solving a problem, but you're not actually building something that they don't want because they think they want it. So
Yep.
that's a very critical part of that process as well.
Yeah, ideally, because we've gotten a lot of what we call rescue projects from clients where they've gone either offshore or onshore. It doesn't matter where they are really. There's people that just jump in too quickly and start building, and they don't get what they want because they don't understand how to communicate what they're after. And then that's where ourselves we've come in and we've got a process where we get people development ready, hence dev ready, and the whole brand around everything that we do is how do we get you dev ready before you start building anything so you're building the right thing first time. And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, that's those workshops are critical. And like you said, asking, knowing what questions to ask through experience, but then also being able to give feedback and alternate point of views and other directions to people because you've worked across different industries, really enriches that process.
100%. And to your point as well, if you're asking the right questions right at the start, you're asking the customers if they've thought about what their next phase of evolution actually looks like. Because when you're starting to build, you and I know this, if you have a set of requirements, you can build for the set of requirements. But if you haven't thought about what their future requirements look like, you might actually have to re-architect that solution. So you can actually save your customer a lot of time by doing that in the first instance itself.
Yeah, what we like to say, it's a lot cheaper to change words in a plan than it is to then rewrite code,
Yes.
because unless we know exactly what you're trying to build and the direction you want to take the product. Like if you want to build a product and you're saying, "Oh, I want to be the next Facebook," That's a very different architecture that we need to set up than I'm building something internally for my 3 staff.
That's right.
There's a lot of planning that has to go in to be able to give you the support. Otherwise, you're going to have to scrap it all and start again. And that maybe is the case. Like maybe you just want to test the market first, and then you're happy to do that. But a lot of people don't want to go through that process.
That is true. And then a lot of the times as well, I've come across, you've spoken about rescue projects. I've come across a lot of projects where security has been an afterthought. So you can't have security an afterthought. You need to understand who has access to what records, who is going to be able to update and view those records and delete the records right from the start, because you're going to architect that solution accordingly. You're going to set up your security privileges accordingly. So it can't be an afterthought. It has to be part of that initial engagement.
Definitely, it should be just first thought in the developer's mind or the architect's mind as well. Like if the way we operate, we have template projects set up. So we have a template with the best practices in place and things that we've built over every project. We go back and replan and adjust, and now the next project has a better starting point. But that's all built in initially, so we don't necessarily have to think about it every time because we've baked it in. But it's still something you have to worry about because every project is a little bit different. They've all got their own like unique points that adjust and challenge that model and how the data is moved and managed. But a lot of the security issues we see is sometimes there's passwords and API keys written in the code that you can just see if you have access to the source code, which is not how it should be done.
No, absolutely not. And I think, your role and our roles in those engagements with the customers is to advise them what good practice is, what best practice is, because most of the times the customers themselves are not aware that they are not using best practice, and by using bad coding practices they could potentially put themselves at risk.
Yeah, definitely. And there's such a concern at the moment with hacking and getting data exposed. There was Qantas a couple of weeks ago. Like even the huge organizations, they're more at risk because they're more exposed and they're a larger brand. But that is happening everywhere and across the board. And if you get one of those ransomware attacks, then you're really stuffed if you haven't got enough precautions in place to restore backups or whatever it may be.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you on that front.
So when you're working, do you deal with a lot of non-technical people or people that have built software before? Because I think that's two very different approaches and different conversations.
It depends week to week. So I do every now and again get people who have never built anything before and have no technical skills. And I like those conversations. I like the conversations with people who have the technical skills as well, because they come with some guidance on what they'd like to be build and some of the technology. They've already made some decisions on the technology they'd like to use. So I think right now I'm seeing a lot of founders who are building technology without a technical background. So with those individuals, you've got to explain to them how the technology would actually work, and translate their requirements into technical specs.
Yeah, it's a lot more of a like an education process for those people because they don't know what they don't know. Even the technical ones, depending on if they're just very good at using software, or if they've built software before, again, a different level of experience and how you have to approach it, and they'll be able to explain things to you in a better way if they've done it before because they've gone through the process and had those questions asked.
That's true. And also when it's a non-technical founder, I don't think they understand the layers involved. So, you're building your application, but behind the application, you have a database. And this is how you actually store data. So data is stored in a structured manner. So you've got to explain all of that to a non-technical founder, most of the time.
Yeah, it's we use the house building analogy. It's very similar to that. You get your foundation right, that helps you scale to where you need to go in the future. Build the frame, that's the skeleton of your code, and then you've got your plumbing, your electrical wiring, your walls, your plaster. Then you've got the fit outs and the furnishings, which is like your design and the UX UI. So that's generally helps explain that to a user.
Yeah.
To a customer.
To a customer. No, and that is very important because they do need to understand how all those building blocks work together. And then when they understand it, they also understand why the price is what it is. Because sometimes, there can be conversations of why is it so costly? Well, these are the layers we need to put in place for your system to actually work.
That's always a challenging conversation. It's not always. It can be at times if they've never gone through it before, especially because if they don't understand enough about software and they just think it's easy to just move something or put something onto a screen, considering the structure and the framework and how it's been implemented. It can take time, and it does take time. Nothing is ever a half an hour fix. It doesn't work like that in
No.
software.
And you have low code development tools available to users and consumers today. So sometimes they think that they can actually achieve what they want through low code, and absolutely there are things you can achieve through low code. And I'm an advocate of low code technology, but the more meaty solutions and the more meaty specs, you actually have to use coding.
Yeah.
And all of that takes time. So it's about explaining the different coding concepts, what's achievable through low code, what's not achievable, and why you need to go and use a different
I was
approach.
gonna say, yeah, some small, simple tools, definitely low code can help.
Yep.
But if you want to do anything at scale or be able to then control at a more fine grained level and adjust how it's working or performance tune, depending on what the task is, those platforms are going to be limiting and they don't let you do any of that sort of work. So then you have to then take the code if you can, and generally you can't.
Yeah. And a lot of what we're talking about right now is educating the customer. So, we haven't even sometimes not even gone into the requirements. It's about educating the customer about different types of technology that can be used, the way it's all layered, before you even start going through their requirements and giving them a view of how you're actually going to take them through that journey.
Yeah, and that's the entire approach of understanding what someone's trying to build, asking the right questions, asking better questions,
Yeah.
rather than just jumping in too early. How have you seen over the past, say, 6 months, the shift in the AI coding and vibe coding, is the term that's been going around, sort of change those conversations? Because we've seen a lot of non-technical people being able to build working, functional. Not, I'd say it's beyond the prototype because
Yeah.
I had a client yesterday showing us that they built a system. They had APIs for external users, integrations with other tools, webhooks built in. Like they'd done everything,
Yeah.
but they didn't have the security principles in mind. Or like they were learning along the way. So now it's all right. Take over this project and help me make it stable and commercially ready.
Yeah. So I have not seen that quite yet, and that's
Okay.
probably because I work with a segment of customers in SMB, and as we know, they wear multiple hats and don't really have time to
Yep.
to play with the tools. But I see that wave coming, and I actually see more consumers and more founders starting to use AI to build their prototype or an MVP. But of course, the risk is you don't apply best practice while you're building your tools. But I definitely see that happening very soon.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a huge wave that's happening.
Right.
We started putting out some ads on Meta, targeting people that are all right. If you're building this software and it's going to get you 90% of the way, but to commercialize that last 10%,
Yep.
you need assistance. You need someone who's done software before, who's built it, who's commercialized software, and knows how to get it to that point. And then I think the level of output that we can produce versus what they can produce using the same tools is going to be substantially larger as well, because you've got that background and knowledge behind. You know how to code, so you won't let the AI run away and do its own thing and then change things and wreck things and bring it back if
Yeah.
you've got the right process in place.
And also, when you have the coding skills, you know how to take control and you know how to
Yeah.
basically change the code to make it work for the scenario you're trying to make it work. When you're starting to use AI, you're heavily reliant on AI making those decisions for you. So like you said, you start losing control. However, there is definitely merit in using AI because it's something that a founder can actually use to get their skills up to a particular level. But where it falls back on a software studio company is the troubleshooting. It's the changing of code. And
Yep.
it's lovely to see that you've already tailored your offerings to cater to that kind of customer. And that kind of customer we'll start seeing more of that kind of customer in the
Yep.
near future.
I think definitely. So yeah, so Claude 3.5 I think was released in October or November last year. Before that, coding models weren't very good. It was just
Yep.
like hitting tab and it'd write the next word for you effectively in the editor. Then that model came out and sort of changed the game. And then 3.7 came out at the start of the year. And that really changed how good it can actually write. And then since then it's exploded. And that's why you've seen Lovable and Replit and Cursor the $100 million valuation grow to the 100 million annual recurring revenue and $3 billion valuations on these companies because they've just leveraged the tools, but they were building early enough to jump on board.
Yeah.
And that wave is everyone's talking about it now that I'm seeing online, and a lot of founders, even small businesses, are asking us, "Are you using AI to code? How's it helping? What's it doing?"
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And are these small businesses also looking at the cost effectiveness in that sense? So when you're starting to
Yeah.
use AI to code, oh, this
Some of those questions have
yeah,
been raised already.
yeah,
That's another challenging conversation around the pricing model then, because some people are expecting reduction, but it takes a while. It's no, I don't think anyone has a foolproof method to use the AI yet to reduce effort. It just
yeah,
means we'll spend more time doing testing and validating
that's right.
what's developed and making the code more robust.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we try and deliver more value with the same amount of time rather than trying to reduce and cut everything back.
And I think that is a good approach instead of entirely relying on AI to build the code. You absolutely have to test the code. You have to test the code. You can't rely that it's going to go and do the right thing. Yes, it's
Yeah,
capable of building. Is it capable of building the right thing? That's not yet proven yet. So I guess absolutely for software development companies, that's going to be very important. If you're using AI tools to actually write your code, make sure you're doing the QA behind the scenes,
yeah,
and you have people in your team who have the skills to do the QA, because that's another thing I'm finding is a lot of people entering into coding used to have like entry level jobs. They might have been testers or they might have been in the support team, and they'd start doing some troubleshooting initially, and then they'll get onto projects. So they'd learn how things worked and they'd learn how to fix things when they were broken. But what does it look like today for an entry level professional?
I don't know. They can do everything because the AI is their super partner that can do it all. But it'll be opinionated. It'll make mistakes. It may change things unless you know or understand enough of what it's doing. Then you think you may have something that's working, but it won't be 100%.
That's right. And they won't also be able to reverse engineer just because they don't have that skills or the skills haven't been learned yet.
Yeah, and then they won't ask the right questions if they start an
Yeah.
agency and try and build software for other people.
Absolutely. So experience matters here. Experience definitely matters. And that's one of the feedback I would provide founders or people looking at building apps. It's like make sure you have experienced professionals building your apps. You don't want someone sitting behind the computer and entirely relying on AI. AI, yes, absolutely rely on AI, but don't entirely rely on
Yeah,
AI to build your app.
be analytical, think through, plan, do your own work. Don't just take what it does and copy and paste.
Yeah.
That's just a general rule for using it, yeah, for anything, not just coding.
Yeah.
So pivoting the conversation to Sasbury, how do you work with Microsoft partners, and then how did that come about?
So I worked with Microsoft at Microsoft partner organizations before then moving on and working at Microsoft. So at my time in partner organizations, I kind of understood what partners needed from Microsoft. And then working on the other side of the fence at Microsoft, realized how partners could more benefit from things that Microsoft did. But, Microsoft has a massive ecosystem of partners. We're looking at maybe around 10,000 partners in Australia and New Zealand. And Microsoft can't reach those partners directly. So I kind of got an idea of where partners had challenges, what they needed access to. So when I finished up at Microsoft, I decided to pretty much get started with a partner maturity assessment. So in terms of where do you sit with your partnership with Microsoft? Do you know how Microsoft goes to market today? Do you know what is Microsoft focusing on from a go-to-market perspective? Do you have clarity on all the programs Microsoft has for partners? And are you wrapping your arms around those programs? Because that allows you to go to market faster and also allows you to start thinking about what's next for your business. So that is pretty much what I focused on, was the partner maturity assessment. And through that, it pretty much allows me to keep guiding the partners I work with on what's the next step that they need to take to stay relevant but also competitive in the market because, like we said, there's 10,000 partners. So, what are you
There's a lot
doing
there.
to stay relevant and competitive in the market?
Yep. So are you working more with the ISV partners or just partners offering the products like SharePoint and Office
Yeah.
365 setup and that sort of products?
So, majority of my partners, I call them system integrator partners or MSPs.
Yep.
That's the place I work with. I don't do much with ISV partners today. I have a few ISV partners that I work with, but mostly, like I would say, 90% of the partners that I have are in either the system integrator space or the MSP space.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And the MSP is the managed service provider where they will help you deploy SharePoint, get that set up,
They'll
integrate
get
Office
us
365.
absolutely. So it's SharePoint, it's cybersecurity, it might be, Copilot. So we've been talking about AI tools. It could be migrating customers from on-prem to the cloud.
Yep.
We still see some of those engagements. It could be getting the customers ready for AI. So some of those MSPs have also evolved their offerings where they're now more consultative. And then so I've had a lot of experience in business applications as well. So business applications, everyone commonly knows it as CRM. So
Hmm.
Dynamics is the Microsoft business application suite and Power Platform
Yep.
for low code. So because I'm very familiar with that, I sometimes guide partners through basically best practice. So partners who are just starting out on that business applications journey,
Hmm.
best practice to running workshops to actually implementing the solution. And I might even help them implement the solution in certain regards.
Okay. Because I find that in generally when we speak to businesses, Dynamics is seems like it's a complicated beast for people to wrangle and get set up correctly.
Yeah. For a non-dynamics professional, dynamics seems like a beast. But I've worked in that space for a long time, and it's not that hard.
Okay, just
Yeah.
yes, not no familiarity with it then,
Yeah.
and then there must be the same with the clients.
Yeah.
How have you seen the rollout of Copilot? Just touching back on the AI side a bit through Microsoft and in with partners, because my own anecdotal feedback is it hasn't worked. I tried it. After 3 days, I moved my license onto someone else in the team because I couldn't cancel it.
All right.
Didn't get much benefit from using it as the chat interface as opposed to using ChatGPT.
Yep.
We didn't turn on the SharePoint integration, which I'm guessing where a lot of the power comes from. But I found
Yes.
that it was limited even in Word and Excel at the point, which was a few months ago now.
So I use ChatGPT, and I also use Copilot. And what I find the effectiveness of Copilot, because it's embedded into the productivity tools I use, um, that makes a big difference. So the prompts that you use that are relevant to you make a big difference. And what I find today is organizations that are using Copilot haven't necessarily gone through the right change management or training for
Okay.
their organization to get the most value out of it. Because, yes, there's things that Copilot can do in terms of summarizing your emails, summarizing your meetings, and that itself saves time. But
Yep.
how do I use it more effectively in the scenarios, in the business scenarios that I work with? And this is where I say organizations should actually take a step back, pause, and look at a really good partner to partner with that does change and adoption management, who can guide you to how more effectively use those tools.
Because you can't just turn it on and get the huge benefit, which anecdotally I've had people say with Google, once they turn on the Gemini, it just everything's like connected and integrated. So it's more it's done for you, whereas opposed to
Right.
Microsoft, I'm guessing they give you more control. So you have to control and choose when to turn it on and how it's integrated.
You have to control how to turn it on, but also, I guess, because the partners have experience across multiple organizations, they can also help you with the prompts that you can use and how to
Okay.
refine your prompting. And as you know, with any AI tool, your prompts make a big difference. And like everyone talks about prompt engineering, the prompts make a big difference. There are tools within Copilot, so there are Microsoft add-ons that you can add, which pretty much allows you to have that deep research capability and stuff like that. But if you didn't know about all of those add-ons, you're probably getting very little value of your Copilot today. And hence
Yep.
that training adoption journey is going to be incredibly important.
I think that's the most critical piece because I'm a power user of all these things and very technical, so I can figure it out. But I didn't
Mm.
even take the time to go through and turn it all on to everything. I just
Yeah.
assumed it would be enabled like the Gemini side on the Google. You turn it on and it's integrated. And I know you can connect it to SharePoint, but
Yeah.
we don't store all that documentation in SharePoint either. We write system scopes and plans, so we have things in separate systems,
Right.
which it doesn't integrate with. But where I'm assuming the big power will come from with sort of Copilot is going to be on the Power Automate side, maybe. We can then set up the automations and agents and get that integrated with it together.
So what Microsoft has today, it has multiple Copilots. So it has M365 Copilot, which is what you and I are talking about. And then you have Copilot Studio, which is pretty much your agents,
Yep.
the agentic experience. But within Dynamics itself, and I have to check whether this is still in preview or it's now released. So you actually have the ability to say, can you now create a table? Let's say it's a school management system. I need to track information about educators, students, the courses that they attend. And what it does is it just basically you're still chatting with this experience and it says, okay, we're going to go and create these tables. We're going to create these fields under the tables, and boom, it goes and creates everything. Now, if I was actually going to build that from scratch, it would take me some time to set up the tables, then some time to set up the fields, but you can actually provide an input and it's automatically creating that for you. And that's quite powerful in itself. So those tools are already available for you today.
Yep.
Again, I don't know, again,
Might not be public, but it's coming.
yeah, yeah. If it's in public preview or it's released, that is something I haven't checked just yet. Yeah.
So that again, yeah, having that, taking that step back and doing the planning and understanding, training, change management will then allow you to utilize those tools to their capacity, the best of what they can provide, rather than just is it going to replace ChatGPT as a chat interface for me?
Absolutely. And the other thing I recommend organizations do is create a community of experts internally. Now, this works really well in larger organizations because if you have champions within the organization, the other ones who get really excited about this stuff. And this makes me think about, and I used to work in New Zealand, and my boss, every time Dynamics released something new, which was really going to be very effective to our customers, I used to be like jumping from my seat, going to tell the whole team, this is new, this is so exciting, and this is the value it's going to add to our clients. But that's a similar thing with Copilot. When Copilot, you can see there's this stuff Microsoft drops every now and then, incremental updates. So if you have champions who get really excited about these updates and what it means to the business, you need to put them in a champions program and start, like they call it a center of excellence, but you're pretty much creating a community internally for those people who evangelize the product, how they're using the product, the efficiency that they get from the product. And the last bit, which is really important, is what are they doing with the time saved?
Yep.
Because there is a greater opportunity of what someone can do with the time they've saved. So
Of
that
course.
is what I would say. Yeah, that is what I say organizations should pretty much embrace building those communities. And if you're a smaller organization, think about which other organizations you can partner with to build a community of experts across a few different businesses.
Yeah, and that's a good approach because having that support, you can't do it all yourself. And if you're small,
Yes.
you're not going to have enough staff or enough time potentially to do that. So if you have a few people, you can then leverage each other's benefit and educate each other as well. So that's a fantastic approach.
Yeah.
So, Leanne, it's been a pleasure having you on the episode today. If anyone wants to find out more or reach out, how can they do that?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Leanne Deers. Now my name is hyphenated, so Lee-Anne Deers, and connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't do many other social profiles at the moment, but maybe that's change in the near future.
Not a problem. We'll add all those links. We'll add your LinkedIn into our show notes and your website as well. And if you get anything else by the time we release it, we'll add that too.
Fantastic. Sounds good. Thank you, Anthony, and
All
thanks
right.
for having me on the podcast today.
Thank you.